well, welcome to NFL Rundown from talkSPORT End Zone, your dedicated NFL YouTube channel from talkSPORT. The wildcard round is in the books. The best weekend of football of the season, the divisional round, is on the horizon. I'm Will Gavin. I have the great Brian T. Smith alongside me, and we've got notes. We've come with some receipts. We are like a dog-eared copy of that awful book that AJ Brown was reading on the sideline.
the number one bestseller in the world, Will.
Yeah, what's it called? Realizing inner whatever it is nonsense.
It's called Shaved Head. Nick Sirianni's Shaved Head. That's what it's called.
Look, and in today's show, we are going to go over those brilliant wildcard matchups, including the battle of the MVPs, those great NFC games. There's been some hirings and firings in the NFL, of course, as well. We'll talk about those. But as always seems to be the way, those franchises who like to create news, love to drop just these bombs into the middle of what's everyone else's moment in the sunshine. And just as we were building up to the final game of the weekend, Rams-Vikings, huge matchup, we find out that the Dallas Cowboys and Mike McCarthy parting ways. No longer are they together as head coach and team. And suddenly the Cowboys enter into the hiring cycle. Mike McCarthy is available as a coach to everyone. And Jerry Jones starts banging on the door of primetime Deion Sanders. Literally last night during the game, the moment that it became clear that the Rams were going to blow the Vikings out, all social media was whether Deion Sanders is a good fit in Dallas, whether or not that's going to be a great job for him, whether he'll take it or not, whether he's just trying to get more money out of Colorado. It was dominant. And so, of course, we're going to start the show by talking about prime to Dallas. Does it work?
If I want to quote one of the great poets in not just American history, definitely not UK, world history. Well, if you look good, they pay good, and if they pay good, you play good. Whatever the quote was. Deion Sanders. Okay, let's just break this down. Deion Sanders has been building toward this his entire life. This is ultimate peak. Because I know Deion Sanders as primetime. I'm old school. I'm like from the 1980s, 1990s. Coach Prime, he is prime time. Prime time is bigger than Coach Prime. And if you grew up in the United States of America and you were a sports person, which I was in the 80s and 90s, there was basically Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders. And Deion Sanders was the next level of that because he was all about Deion. He was an incredible athlete. He was a good baseball player. He actually has better stats than Bo Jackson does because he stayed healthy. He was an incredible football player. But ultimately, it was always about whether he was at Florida State, going through the NFL, on NFL Network, on and on. It was ultimately about Deion Sanders. And he has had a crazy life. He's had an inspiring life. He's a man of God. All these things. But ultimately, it's about Deion Sanders. And when I look at this, and I look at where the Cowboys are at, and we just did a special recording last night getting into all this, and we don't need to rehash that. This feels like the moment where the two worlds converge. This feels like where Jerry Jones has put the Cowboys in this corner and you can't get out of it, and I'm not sure they're really going to go anywhere. And the only answer that truly makes sense on a Jerry Jones, Dallas Cowboys level, Will, is to hire Deion Sanders. I'm not saying they're going to, and if I'm Deion, there might eventually be a better job. But is there going to be a better job for primetime, for Coach Prime, for his persona, for his brand? Because that's also what Deion Sanders is about. It might be Jason Witten. It might be Bill Belichick. There are all these names that are coming out. And lastly, Jerry Jones is going to soak up all this because this is what Jerry Jones does. He loves this. They're not going to win. They're not going to win the Super Bowl. He wants the attention. He wants to flash, the star. This feels like where it is going, that Deion Sanders will become the head coach. And the only way it doesn't happen is if Coach Primetime convinces himself there's something else better down the road, and I'm not sure that's going to happen. If I'm Deion, I take this job.
Yeah, and look, that's the key thing here, is that there is all this conversation about, is he just trying to get more money out of Colorado? He's always suggested he doesn't want to coach in the NFL. He doesn't like, ironically, dealing with prima donna players.
He doesn't like dealing with the players that are just like Deion Sanders.
The
That's
players
the
who learn at the knee of Deion Sanders, those are the players he doesn't like dealing with, right? But from my perspective, I think you're absolutely right. I think he should take this job. I think he took Jack State as far as he could. Yeah. He got to them to their very peak, and he took an FCS job. He took a Division I job. And he's got this Colorado team who are not a big program, who are not a big team. He's got them to a bowl. That is as far as he'll be able to take.
And he has Colorado relevant. Like, we actually talk about the Colorado Buffaloes on a national level.
I don't think I've ever had a conversation about them before Prime.
Not since the 1990s with McCaffrey and Cordell Stewart. I'm glad I remember that name. I haven't thought of that name in 30 years. He was a nice quarterback. He was a nice player. But we talk about Colorado because they're relevant because Deion Sanders made them relevant. And once, he loses his son, he loses Travis Hunter, Colorado won't be in that conversation anymore. Deion can't keep all that afloat. He has maximum leverage. The coach prime time is at an all-time peak. And the only place higher is becoming the HC of the Dallas Cowboys. And they need you. Jerry Jones needs Deion Sanders right now, and Deion loves that.
Did you see Troy Aikman's comments on ESPN last night?
I love Troy Aikman's comments.
See, Troy Aikman, who has, out of nowhere in the last, say, month or so, suddenly decided, I'm going to become a newsbreaker. I'm suddenly going to use these relationships that I have behind the scenes to actually tell people what's really happening in these situations. And for Troy Aikman, the quarterback of a legendary Cowboys team exactly, a dynasty quarterback, a guy who will never have to buy a beer in his life in Arlington, Dallas, or anywhere in Texas. For him to come out and say it's not a desirable job because of Jerry Jones is what he 100%. Inferred. Was kind of astonishing, but at the same time, it's why it makes Prime work for me. And look, like you said, we did a video. Go and check it out at talkSPORT Endzone. There is a video of us initially reacting, and we tear apart the Cowboys' current situation. And we talk about Mike McCarthy, and that's all there. But I just want to focus on Prime.
Yeah.
And what excites me about this is I really think this is as boom or bust as it comes. Because I've been really convinced by Deion Sanders, right? I think he is clearly a leader of men.
He is.
I think he is clearly a great recruiter. I think he is a guy who inspires and leads and really gets the best out of people, which is surprising considering he looked all flash, no splash very early on in his college coaching career. I truly believe that because of that, he could be an inspired hire. But it feels like it's either going to be he's the man to come in and turn this team into a Super Bowl contender once again, or he's going to come in and they're going to win 4 games and it's going to be a car crash. I don't see a middle ground. I don't see them becoming the Steelers or the Bengals or one of these teams who gets in the playoffs, lose every year. They're not going to be boring. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be what drives the NFL. Get Deion Sanders to the Dallas Cowboys now, please.
There's rarely middle ground with the Cowboys because of Jerry Jones and how they're set up. But yeah, you add Deion Sanders to a locker room that already includes Micah Parsons, who can't do anything without live streaming it. CeeDee Lamb, who increasingly is all about CeeDee Lamb. I like Dak Prescott theoretically as a person. Seems like a good guy. He's humble. He's been through a lot in his life. Doesn't make him a great quarterback. Doesn't mean he's going to win a Super Bowl with Dallas. Can Deion Sanders get the best out of Dak Prescott? There's so many questions.
Or do the Dallas Cowboys knock on the door of the Tennessee Titans, go, here's our first-round pick this year, here's our first-round pick next year, here's Dak Prescott on his massive contract, we'd like the number 1 overall pick so that Prime can coach his son in the NFL.
I'm going to put on my history. I'm going to put on my history jacket. I'm going to do some history for you real quick. Live. We haven't rehearsed this at all. I'm just making this up on the spot, but this is the truth. How did the Dallas Cowboys start their dynasty? How did the Dallas Cowboys, when they actually were winners 30 years ago, how did that happen? It happened with someone named Jimmy Johnson, who Jerry Jones has never had a better coach since then, and he regrets that now. And it happened with a trade of Herschel Walker and a blockbuster that I still remember being a kid. Was it 1990? Reading the newspaper.
Can you imagine a team giving up their entire draft
reading the newspaper
for
in
one
New Orleans
player
that
now?
Morning, because I don't even think we had ESPN back then. And the Herschel Walker trade changed everything, and they were killed for it initially. Changed everything for that team. My gosh, if he gets Deion Sanders and it's Coach Prime, and then he pulls off a trade for Shedeur Sanders, and then maybe they get Travis Hunter too, the Dallas Cowboys would be on top of the NFL world until they have to play real games and actually win some.